Again, the assumption at this point is that you have Sage running on your machine and you're quite capable of doing it. Now, if you're in this section and you haven't done that yet, you really go back to the beginning of the notes and follow those original instructions and videos. All right, what I want to do is talk about 2D plotting. And what I'm going to do is just, I'm in my terminal, but I'm kind of scrolling around and I want to get to this over here. So f of x, that's a function. The function is the sine of x. And then what do I get? Next up, it says p equals. And what is p equal to plot? P-L-O-T. And what am I going to plot? I'm going to plot the function f of x. And I want to keep the x values, right? And this is pretty typical for this, between minus pi over 2 and pi over 2. And you can play around with these numbers here. Now I realize what people are saying, where's p now? Well, I want to show p. P dot show. Now p is stored somewhere in the computer. When I do this, what's going to happen is one of my applications just opened up, and the application that just opened is called Preview. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with that. Preview is an application that allows me to view PDFs. In this case, it's a PNG. All right, so I'm viewing that. I'm going to close it out, and I want to point out in my notes, you definitely see that image over here. This image here was generated using what's known as SageTex, though. Like I didn't have to copy paste it, and the machine just automatically did it for me. All right, now let's look at this one over here, and I'm going to do a copy paste, but there's problems with copy paste, and I'll go through those problems with you. All right, copy. I'm going to go back to my terminal. I'm going to clear the screen. I'm going to paste that in. I want to point out one of the big problems was that I actually copied the line number. Let me go back. I'm sorry about that. Let me go back to the line number we copied. 544, right? So let me get rid of that. I see it over here. Kind of strange looking, right? How it copied in. It's a warning about it, though. You try not to... more errors. What was the other errors? There's a bunch of errors, by the way. I want to point out the big errors when you copy paste quote marks. You got to change them. So let's do that one at a time. You see, it's more of a pain to copy. Whoops, I just did it again, didn't I? Let me see if I can do this here. I'm changing those quote marks to a single tick mark. I want purple. I'm using my cursor to do that, by the way. All right, looked like it went through fine. Let me do p.show again, and let's see what changed. All right, so I got a graph now. It basically, same domain of it between minus pi over 2 and pi over 2, but now I'm getting a label. And what label am I getting? The x and sine x. I'm getting them labels there. All right, let me go back over here. And I want to point out you probably should kind of look through that. And certainly the graph of my notes, same way I just got from the my preview viewer as well. All right, changing line styles, you may want to take a look at that. The thickness, again, you may want to take a look at that. All right, this one over here there's two plots being generated here, P and Q. One is in black, one is in red. And then what do? I say R is an addition of those two. Now, of course, when I'm saying you're adding those two together, you want to keep the same domain of those problems over here, all right? Now, you copy them together. I'm not going to say things are not going to come out perfect, but for the most part, they're acceptable. And certainly I see the graph they plotted out for me right over here, all right? Some other things over here about, finding roots of this over here. So, what are you talking about finding a root over here? Really what I'm doing is I'm looking for the place where they intersect, all right? I'm looking for the place where they intersect. All right, and it's around 0.785. Kind of looking at it, that seems pretty reasonable to me. All right, and that's all the stuff is over here. Again, you may want to type in the code. I kind of recommend you do that. Look at not only the code but the output. All right, you look at that. Make sure you make some sense out of that. All right. Now, certainly, I do want to claim sometimes when you're typing things in, that you're going to be awful confused by what you say. You're expecting to see certain things and you're not seeing those. Let me get rid of that. Let me go back here. I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to paste that in. And I'm going to just copy this and get over here. going to copy paste. I'm going to show P now. All right. And I got to be honest with it, really odd looking. I mean, really odd looking. So if someone says, why is it odd? I wouldn't expect to see a graph like that. But they talk about that there's asymptotes in it, all things you can do with that. And I got that picture over here for you, by the way. It's poorly rendered, by the way. But there's ways to fix it. And this code over here fixes it. All right. Sage is really nice. It allows you to fix problems. Certainly there's other software that I believe is nicer than Sage. But again, Sage is open source. One of the really nice features about Sage, though, is I can embed these graphs into my notes really quickly, too, by the way. All right. Parametrics, another nice plotting software. You want to take a look at that? I talk about, aspect ratios for those parametric plots, what the curve is. You do some reading, you think about what's been presented to you, and you'll get through it. All right? And a lot of stuff over here. Again, why do you go through the code? To try to learn from the code. You read it, look at the output, try to make some sense out of it. All right? Try to make sense out of it to you. All right, there's some exercise over there. All right, make sure you get through that. Before you try exercise, though, you really need to study what's presented to you. Thank you.